Great move to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, coming to you from our outstanding studios today because we got one of my all-time favorites, Dan Pitcher, Cincinnati Bengals Offensive Coordinator, one of the bright, young, rising stars, brilliant offensive mind. He's really building a strong reputation around the National Football League, not just here in the city of Cincinnati. Very fortunate to have Dan Pitcher coordinating the Cincinnati Bengals offense, and he talks about it. He talks about all the weapons that he has. He talks about the uniqueness and the brilliance of Joe Burrow. What are some of the traits that make him unique and special? There's the same thing about the dynamic duo that just re-signed. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. There's not a better tandem in the National Football League. Talks about Mike Gesicki and what he brings to the table. Chase Brown as well. All these offensive weapons. It's a sight to behold. Cincinnati Bengals offense, and nobody can talk about it any better than offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher. You're going to like everything he has to say. We understand you could be doing a lot of things with your time right now. So the fact that you joined us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, coming to you from the studios that they provide for us, and these studios are phenomenal. There's no question about that. We do appreciate you carving time with us. And a very smart move on your part, because we have a very, very smart, intelligent individual. Not just, I'm talking about overall intelligence, and then I'm talking about football IQ. And I'm talking about a coach that the Cincinnati Bengals feel that they're very, very fortunate to be working with, and that is offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, one of the young, bright minds in the National Football League. And I'll tell you what, it's put together unbelievable packages last year. The concepts were unbelievable. The execution was unbelievable. Dan Pitcher and the offensive coaching staff and the players executing what those coaches put in front of them was a sight to behold last season. And we have Dan Pitcher with us right now, the architect, the man who gives the final approval, the final say on all of it. Welcome, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, Lap. It's been a little bit, but glad to be back.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us. I know this is a crazy time of the year. I know your time is extremely valuable, so appreciate you carving it with us as well.
No problem.
A lot going on, man. A lot going on. Let's talk about, you have a new offensive line coach, Scott Peters, who is highly regarded around the National Football League, and rightfully so. He has some unique techniques that he teaches, a little almost like a little martial arts jiu-jitsu kind of stuff with it. Parallel feet and the long arm and all those kind of things. I really like it. I mean, from what I've seen, I really like what he does with offensive linemen. What's he been like in meetings for you, Coach?
Yeah, Scott's awesome. He's been a great addition for us here, and he brings a real passion for his area of expertise. He's a technician. He really loves the details of the execution of that position, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's a position that unless you've really, you've played it and studied it and immersed yourself in it, it's hard to really have an appreciation for the nuance and all the things that go on. I mean, you know yourself, all what it takes, the tools that you need. Oftentimes I think, people view that position as just a matter of brute strength and power and will, and certainly that's a component of it. But those guys, it's important that they have the tools at their disposal to go execute, and I think Scott does an excellent job of giving them those things.
I think you hit on something, Coach, that is so huge, tools, because we all know that not everybody is built the same. I mean, guys have long legs, short trunks, the reverse, long trunks, short legs, short arms, long arms, big hands, small hands, whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of body compositions in terms of guys that have played successfully in the offensive line. It's not just one body type. Guys have found ways to be successful with a myriad of body types. And it's because there are different ways to skin the cat. There are different techniques that you can employ and tools, as you mentioned, in the toolbox. And I think that's what I'm real impressed with Scott, is that he's going to have this toolbox for guys to, draw from. And this fits me best. This fits what I do best from a body mechanic or biomechanic standpoint. And he seems to be all in with that. And let's agree on some things and let's get it done.
Yeah, I think there's a component to that when you're coaching at the highest level, right? As you have things that you believe in, things that you work and you've seen work time and time again, and then you try to deliver those tools and those techniques to your players, and then it's a two-way street. You got to be willing to listen to the player and get their feedback, and as long as the effort and respect and all the things that are required to be good at the position are being put in, then I think that dialogue's appropriate, and figuring out what's the best plan tailored for each individual to allow them to realize their potential. And I think that's what Scott and Mike, who's Mike McCarthy, who's our assistant online coach, who's with them.
Right.
I think they come. They have a good rapport between the two of them. They have a great system. And I'm looking forward to seeing how our guys are able to perform within that construct.
But the rest of the offensive coaching staff remains intact. I mean, it's put up incredible numbers last year. I mean, it was a thing of beauty to watch the Cincinnati Bengals offense perform. There's no question about it. I mean, put up unbelievable numbers on a week-to-week basis. It's like, boy, what's in store this week? And to have that continuity and consistency in your coaching staff, to have so many people back, how good is that, Coach?
Oh, it helps, and I think mainly because of just the quality of the people and the professionals that these guys are. There are a lot of people on our offensive staff that, I think are definitely guys that will move up in their careers and really go as far as they want to go. Along their own individual timelines. But so what that means is they're capable of everything we've given them, that I've given them, and then more, and so as you delegate responsibility and you ask for input, you get back very high quality work. And, I think to have a staff full of guys that are driven to provide that, are driven to be the best teachers that they can be at their positions, to be leaders for their particular groups, and then to have input on what it is that we do as an offense. Their voices are welcome, they're heard, and we try to just come together and create something that is going to allow us to succeed as a team. And so I'm really happy with the staff, grateful that we get to continue working together, and I think we'll be even better this year.
So there are so many things that are going on right now in terms of preparing for 2025. The free agency, veteran free agency, the draft the combine, the draft coming up, college free agents on top of draft picks, OTAs, mini camps, all of these things, finally training camp. But before all that, are you in the process now of meeting as a staff and then okay, let's review the tape for last year's games? You guys are probably way ahead of the game getting all that done. And okay, these are things that really looked really good for us, and almost everything looked really good. But let's stay with a few of these for core things. And is there anything that anybody else might have in mind, Scott? Maybe what have you done in the run game or in pass protections in other organizations that might be adaptable to what we're trying to get done here schematically and from a concept standpoint? Are you guys in that process, or has that already happened?
No, that's exactly what we're working through. Everybody. At the conclusion of the season, you get a little time away, then you come back, and kind of leading up to the combine throughout the month of February, everybody was completing the self-scout in their individual areas of expertise. So then they send me the completed package of what they believe we did well in their areas, where we need to improve. I watch all that stuff. Same with Scott and Mike. They come in, they've got a new set of eyes, so they're able to look at some things and give me feedback. And then last week we were together for 3 days, in the office, kind of going through, all right, here's what we did really well. These are some ideas where we may want to expand. How do we incorporate those into our spring plans? through phase 2 and through OTAs and then into training camp, and how big of a portion of who we are going to be do we see these things being, and then you adjust as you go. So yeah, you kind of outlined it perfectly. That's what we're doing from a scheme standpoint. All the while you're balancing the evaluation component of free agency and the draft, and trying to kind of have these parallel tracks where you're fulfilling your duties on both sides. And then once the draft comes and goes, that's when we really can kind of turn, and really once draft meetings finish up here in a couple of weeks is where we can really kind of turn our focus more back towards being full-time coaches, and really focusing on the scheme and making sure that the plan for the spring is solidified.
It's let's talk about free agency, because that's the period that you're in right now. And the roster building philosophy organizationally, ever since, I can remember, and that's going back a ways, 1974. I mean, it's always been draft, develop those draft picks and retain them. You don't want to let good players going into their prime that you've invested franchise time, franchise talent, franchise dollars, franchise everything in, go play for someone else. I mean, and in this year's free agency situation, you've signed 17 free agents. 13 of them were your own, which is exactly that. Draft, develop the guys, retain the guys that are in their prime, in their second and maybe even third contracts, and you've signed four players from other franchises, but retained 13 of your own, and none more important, obviously, than the dynamic duo at wide receiver who have combined for last season for 200 catches, 2,619 yards, and 27 touchdowns. That is sick. I mean, that is unbelievable. That's otherworldly. And, of course, the Triple Crown winner himself, Ja'Marr Chase, 127 catches, 1,708 yards, 17 touchdowns. Coach, it's ridiculous. I mean, but congratulations to the organization. Congratulations to you guys for identifying them. I mean, these guys were all obviously Joe Burrow, number 1 pick in the draft. Ja'Marr Chase, 5th pick in the draft. T. Higgins, 1st pick in the 2nd round of the draft. 33rd pick. You guys identified them, drafted them, developed them, retained them. And you've got the big 3 rolling, man. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an exciting time, to be a part of this organization, to be an individual who's, in charge of this offensive attack, to have the weapons that we now have at our disposal for the foreseeable future. Guys that we know are going to be in the fold here now for a long time, who are dynamic playmakers, who are difference makers, who, in the case of Ja'Marr Chase, is the best in the world at what he does. In the case of Joe Burrow, is the best in the world at what he does. In the case of T. Higgins, as you mentioned, is an elite playmaker in the NFL. And then you add all sorts of other guys, Mike Gesicki, who came on super strong at the end of the year. We've got a core of individuals that are going to be together, not just this year, but next year, and a lot of them years to follow. And so that's exciting because we already have some continuity developed with those guys based on the success that we had, this past season, and it was building in the right direction. We accomplished a lot of really good things. We know that there's definite, areas where we can grow and we can improve, but to have that same core of people, all those awkward times that you spend trying to get to know people. How do I talk to this person? How does this guy going to react in this specific look? Well, we've kind of crossed a lot of those bridges already. And now it's just all laid out there in front of us to go, be the best offense in football. That's our goal. And couldn't be more excited based on where we are right now and the guys that we're going to have in that room to go do it.
Coach, the other thing, a lot of the players that you re-signed, the veteran free agents, all have position versatility, and none more so than the big 2. I mean, the dynamic duo, both of your wide receivers, Mike Gesicki, another one. You can name just about Yossi at the receiver position. You have guys that are very, very intelligent individuals with super football IQs. They have physical skills at an elite level, but they have the mental capacity at an elite level to be able to line up anywhere and do anything for you, and to have that kind of a, moving chess pieces around like you can do with these guys. How valuable is that asset?
Well, we just want to make life hard on the defense, and really that's how we try to set everything up. We number one, put our players in position to have success based on their individual skill sets. But then number two, make it difficult for the defense when they try to, have very specific efforts designed at limiting one or two of our players. Well, we got to make that expensive for them. And in order to make that expensive, you have to be able to move players around. You have to be able to motion them. You have to be able to line them up inside, outside, in the backfield, so that every defensive call that they have in that is designed to do that has to have multiple adjustments based on where these players are. And so that's where, that's why we do it a lot of the times. And we're upfront about why we do it, because, we want it to be hard for them. We want them to have to prepare for that. And so you need smart players. You need guys with high football IQ. You need guys that are going to put the work in. And then you guys that have, multiple years of experience within the system. It just gets easier and easier to do those things. So we have all of that, and we intend to continue using all of that, and we intend to continue making life hard on the defense.
You mentioned guys that will work at it. Man, that's what it's all about in terms of not only do these guys work their bodies to peak performance, but they also study and learn concepts and be able to adapt to concepts and any changes that might be necessary. And therefore they can, move around to all these different position groups. Paul Brown used to grade us on, okay, I'm giving you 2 grades. Upper left-hand corner is the grade of your assignment on the particular play. If I'm playing guard, I got the tackle over me, whoop, big whoop, it's like, but then he's in upper right-hand corner, I'm going to give you a grade on everybody else's. You got to know how many step, the quarterback, how many step drop, what are the receivers doing? What are the backs doing? Who's got blitz pickup responsibility? Who's a free release? Who's this? Who's that? And man, I'll tell you what, all of a sudden, man, your football, intelligence level, because you're so aware of everything that's going on around you. And that's what you've done, with these players. I mean, it is a group that is unbelievably aware. And I love during the course of the game when you guys, the offense comes off the field and they talk to coaches, they talk to each other, they go to the bench. You guys everybody's communicating with each other from the booth down to the field, from the field up to the booth. And I mean, it is like one big, dissertation. It's like a doctorate dissertation about what's going on out in the football field during the course of the game. What's it like when you have a team like that comes to the sideline? You can make instantaneous corrections, changes, all that sort of thing. That's got to be tough on a defense as well.
Yeah, I think it just allows us a degree of flexibility that not everybody has. And, there's got to be a willingness to employ that flexibility. I think that comes from Zach and just his overall philosophy on how he wants to, what kind of offense he wants us to be, and the empowerment of the quarterback and what, we'll want to allow Joe to be able to do. And so, yeah, like those lines of communication, the specific expertise of the individuals involved, knowing when to talk and what to say and what not to say, and just having that chemistry, that takes time to develop. It goes back to having the continuity of the staff that you spoke about earlier, and guys understanding their roles. All those lead to, I think, some really good things. And it doesn't mean there's not room for growth. Certainly there is. There's elements of, looking back at last season where if we want to be, self-critical, which we need to be, like there were points of time in specific games where we could have been better. We could have reacted faster. We could have, gone with a different scheme at a different point in time, and maybe it leads to a different result. But that's all part of your process, part of learning. It's part of, making sure that you're keeping yourself sharp. But yeah, there are a lot of elements there. And again, it goes back to, it just requires great football intelligence, great care. Guys that want to do it the right way and want to fulfill the roles to the best of their ability. And I think we have that, both player and coach.
The guy that I don't want to leave out of the mix here, Chase Brown, 990 yards rushing. I mean, if he doesn't miss the last game, you got a 1,000-yard rusher, 10 yards away. And then another 360 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns rushing, 5 receiving, 12 more touchdowns that he provided for you. 1,350 scrimmage yards, is 17th in the National Football League. I mean, Chase Brown now, when you get receivers stretching the field, tight ends, abusing the middle of the football field, and all of a sudden there's another layer for Chase Brown to settle down, check it down to him. And this guy now, he's a jet. And the thing about him, not only does he get that speed, he gets to that speed so quickly. It looks like he's top end speed, maybe in his second or third step. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chase's physical ability jumps off the tape. You don't have to be a professional coach or professional scout to be able to identify what he can do. He's explosive. Every time he touches the ball, it's a chance for it to be a big play. The things that I would point out about Chase is his obsessive work ethic. He is. There's guys that are all in, and then there's guys that are like Chase Brown, where it's their life. And he has just grown in a number of areas, protection being one of them. Things where we knew he had it in his body physically to execute, but there's such an element of studying and being on top of it in the moment, and then executing when your opportunity comes, because those can be game-changing plays when you don't have the football. And I think what Chase proved to us last year as coaches and as an organization is that he can do whatever we ask him to do. And so he's going to be a major focal point of what we do moving forward. We're going to do our best to supplement the duties of that position when appropriate. That's why a guy like Samaje Perine is so critical, because there's just a very clear vision for a guy like Samaje and what he can provide for this team, on top of just being an excellent person, an excellent teammate. He has a very clear role here for us. I think it'll allow Chase to continue to do what he does so well, which is touch the football and make explosive plays. So he falls right in with that group, man. It's a dynamic group, and it's going to be one that's difficult to defend.
Yeah, he's always had good hands. Now they're even better. I mean, he's worked hard at that, and like you said, the blitz pickup, man, he sticks his nose right in the chest now, and gets after blitzers. You got to keep number 9 protected. More than valuable asset. And you brought up Samaje Perine. He comes back for a second tour of duty with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, here's a running back that is 5'11", 240 pounds. I mean, the guy's put together. He can run the football. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. And he is, like you mentioned, Coach, outstanding in blitz pickup. I mean, he's a training reel watching him stick his face in there against linebackers. How big an asset will he be, do you think, to the running back room?
He'll be huge. We've always held Samaje in very high regard, and this is the profession being what it is. Guys come, guys go. We all understand that, but definitely thankful that we have an opportunity to work with Samaje again. I think he's thankful to be back here with us. There's really good synergy between Samaje and our running back coach, Justin Hill. Samaje was here, part of some really good times here in Cincinnati, and we intend to get back to those. And he's still playing at a high level. As I mentioned before, we have a specific vision for what he can give us, and he's I think he views himself in the same light. And like all guys, he's a competitor. He'd do whatever we ask him to do, but he takes that role of protection to heart. He knows how important that is. And when you're that back that has to do that on known passing downs, there's an element of preparation that's akin to being a quarterback. I mean, you have to understand the front structures and the different pressure packages that come from those, and what are the patterns that they're going to hit these gaps in with whatever blitzes they choose to employ. I mean, it's a lot that goes into that when you combine that with all the other duties, for a tailback, it's a lot to ask just one guy to do. And Chase Brown can do it all. But now we have Samaje, who's outstanding in that role. And I think the two of them, along with anybody else that maybe we're able to add to that room, man, it's a good group, good people, hard workers, smart, good football players.
Smart. There's a great word for Samaje. I mean, he's got great football IQ, as you described, but his raw intelligence, I mean, listening to him at his presser, I need a thesaurus. I mean, this guy's got a vocabulary now. He's a smart cat. I mean, he's up there waxing eloquently. I'm like, ooh, this guy's impressive, man. It sounds like a college professor up there. It really is incredible, the That's what people, I think, underestimate. The football intelligence is such a huge factor. And there's not a better example, not only in the Cincinnati Bengals, but in the entire National Football League, than a guy whose intelligence with incredible football intelligence than number 9, Joe Burrow. Tell us, I mean, obviously, name a box, he checks it. I don't care what it is, but he's special in so many ways. Give us some ways that he's probably like so uniquely special.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard. He's
right.
I think just his global understanding of the position, his processing ability is rare. The information that he can take in, process, digest, and then use it to make a decision and to do it in real time. Do it, as he's breaking the huddle, as he's surveying the defense, adjustments he's able to make, as once he's caught the football, knowing what to do from that point forward. You talk about that as like the thing that makes him different, and it almost cheapens the fact that just physically he's as gifted or more gifted than just about everybody on the planet. There's maybe a handful of guys that can do the things that he can do physically, and then you add on top of that where he operates mentally. He's different, and it's awesome working with him.
Let's hit the other two components of the big three, the dynamic duo at the wide receiver position, Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins. Give us aspects to Ja'Marr Chase's game, physically, mentally, both, whatever the scenario may be, that makes him so special, Coach.
I mean, just rare competitor. Incredible strength for the position, incredible speed. He's what I'd call a non-expender, meaning that he doesn't his biomechanically he's just so smooth and so powerful. There are guys that run really fast and you look at him and you say, oh man, look how fast he's running. And there are guys that run really fast and you look at him and you say, how the hell is he going that fast? And Ja'Marr Chase falls in the second category.
Yep.
And you can see it. You see it time and time again. Guys take bad angles, and then once they get there, they can't bring him to the ground because his lower body strength and his contact balance is elite. He's got a super high football IQ. He can handle a ton of roles, a ton on his plate. You saw just what we did last year with him. We motioned him. His motion percentage went up like 60-some%. His slot percentage usage went way up as well, somewhere in the same vicinity. And that's only because he's capable of all those things. And again, it goes back to the point before. We got to make covering him hell for the defense. It's already hell based on what he does physically. Just his physical gifts are hell for them to deal with. And then we got to add to that with how we use them. And you put those two things together, and I think that's how you end up with a season like you saw last year. And we're going to grow on that, and we're going to make it harder and harder. And he's an elite worker. He comes back in unbelievable shape every time he's away from the building. He comes back here, and he's built in a lab, and it's just fun to work with.
He is. He never gets tired, man. It's like, I'm like, geez, man, this guy is a machine. He really is. He's part machine, part human. You might talk about the running. Guy that I played with that hits me when you're describing Ja'Marr, Isaac Curtis. Isaac Curtis would be, he'd be flying. Guys would take terrible angles and everything because it didn't look like he was running that fast because his upper body wasn't moving. And his head, you could put an egg on his head. It wouldn't roll off. It's just still. But he's going, man. It's like a duck, up top over the water. But underneath, man, they're going like a bat out of hell with those feet and webs or whatever they got. But that's an unbelievable trait to have. Okay, so now you got Ja'Marr Chase doing his thing, and then you have T. Higgins, big-bodied T. Higgins, long, strong, big hands, strong hands. Tell us about him. What is it about T. Higgins that makes T. Higgins so special and unique?
Yeah, T is just so gifted physically. And he's worked really hard at his craft. the improvement of a player from year 1 to year 2 that we saw in T. Higgins, really in about a 4-month period, from the time he left his rookie year to the time he showed back up here in April of his second year. I don't know that I've ever seen a transformation of somebody's body. How the effort that he put in and just how bought in he was at that point in time to becoming the best version of himself that he could be. And we've seen that continue throughout the last 2, 3, 4 years to get us to the point we are today. And I think there's still meat on that bone. I think there's still areas for T to continue to grow. But man, when he's on the field, he's a difference maker. When he's lined up across from Jamar, or when they're lined up on the same side of the formation, whatever it may be. I mean, that's tough, man. Yeah, that's why we probably see more true two double teams on 2 individual receivers than any team in football. And that's a very expensive thing for a defense to do. But They look at the threat that we present and oftentimes decide that's their best chance. And when they don't do that and we get one-on-one matchups, we know both those guys are going to win their one-on-one matchup 9 out of 10 times. And, T's combination of size, catch radius, ball skills, route running, his fluidity in and out of breaks for a man as tall as he is and as big as he is rare. That's what allows him to separate better than most, if not all, players his size. And he's fearless over the middle. He'll reach and catch. And he's grown as a ball carrier after the catch as well. He had some really tough physical runs after the catch last season that you saw the team rally around. And so, man, it's we could do a whole show on those 2 guys, and we got them signed up for a long time. So it's a good time to be a Bengal.
No question about it. And you're right, Coach. We could talk all day long about just those 2 guys. And I remember a defensive backfield coach that we had to be like, yeah, dude, these receivers 6'2" and bigger, man, they can't sink their hips getting in and out of cuts. Jump them. They're not going to get separation. Jump. T. Higgins, man, sinks those hips, gets in and out of cuts, as well as 5'9" guys. I mean, that guy is he's definitely a freak. Let's last and certainly not least, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Mike Gesicki. Re-signing him was something that Joe talked about. The organization obviously wanted to do. What does Mike Gesicki mean to this passing game, Coach?
I mean, Mike's kind of a physical freak in his own right. He doesn't really maybe get viewed in that light, but he's a guy that verted 40+ inches coming out, and he's 6'6", and he runs like a deer. Mike did such a good job last year because he came in unassuming, do whatever you guys ask me to do, I'm going to do it. And Mike knows himself. He knows what he's really good at. He probably knows some things that he's not as good at. Mike's a guy that could be the focal point of a lot of passing attacks. And every time we needed Mike last year, he stepped up. And I think you saw us get more and more comfort and trust in Mike as the season went on. Us meaning the coaching staff, meaning Joe Burrow. I think Mike always had the trust in himself. He always knew what he was capable of. And then, Mike just deserves a lot of credit for he didn't leave a lot out there. There wasn't a lot of missed opportunity with Mike. You knew when the ball went Mike's way, he was going to make the play. And I think you saw that with one of those 18 catches or whatever it was over the last 2 games of the year. He's just on such a great trajectory with regard to how we were able to use him. And so now that we get to continue doing that for the next couple of seasons, I mean, that's a big deal. We've been in this pattern of having to incorporate and learn a new person at that position. And that is what it is. It's part of the job, right? That's how things have shaken out, and it made sense. But now that we get to continue working with Mike, man, I just think his role will grow, and he's earned our trust, and he's a competitor, and he's a heck of a football player.
And finally, Coach, and I do appreciate you carving the time that you carved, and you're outstanding. Having been on teams where you have a whole lot of talent, sometimes there can be a little bit, of what about me, a little bit of this football team is the most together group. They really enjoy each other legitimately. I mean, they're like brothers, for crying out loud. They're not just like friends. They're like brothers. And it's like everybody's happy about the success of their teammate, as well as themselves, obviously. You like to have good performances to win football games as well. But this is the most together, cohesive group I think I've ever seen. I mean, it's it's like glue, and that's a tribute to the organization, to Zach, to you and the coaching staff, I mean, to the leaders of the football team. It's a pleasure to be around these guys. I mean, it's just an unbelievable group of human beings that you guys have collected. There's no question about it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, that's something that we take a lot of pride in. It matters with the types of people that we want to bring into the building and have as a part of this offensive unit. I think really it's a result of guys who just love winning, who want to win football games, and they certainly want to do their part and contribute to that winning. But the success of the team trumps everything. And I think, the thing we pride ourselves on as coaches, I pride myself on, and I think our players trust us, is that we are going to use them in ways that are going to help us win. And we're going to try to accentuate their strengths. We're going to try to improve their weaknesses. But in the meantime, we're going to try to limit the amount of times that we put them in positions for those weaknesses to be exploited. And we're going to put together a cohesive plan that, again, makes life hard on the defense, incorporates all the skill sets of our individuals, and lets us go win as a team. And I think guys believe that from us. And I think, the proof has been shown that that's exactly what we're going to do. We have to go win more football games, but man, we got the right people to do it. And, I think you're seeing some of that. That's kind of probably what you recognize in the comments you just made. And hell yeah, I mean, that's what we set out to be.
Great Paul Brown. He had all kinds of, he was wise. There's no question, man. Listening to him was listening to a soothsayer. And I remember him after my rookie year, the final, at the end of the season, the address he gave to the football team is, gentlemen, it was a good year, but we didn't hit the ultimate goal. We did not win a championship. What are you going to do in day one of the off season to start to get yourself ready to win a championship next year? Every single day of the off season is important. Get your mind right. Start thinking about things you need to think about. Get your priorities straight. Let's get it going. When exhibition games start, it's too late, man. It's too late. You got to get your mind right in the off season. And man, I'm sitting there listening to that. And I'm like, son of a gun. That's a hell of a good point. I mean, that was the little hoot. Yeah, that's a good bit of knowledge right there. Thanks, Coach. He was something else. As are you, Dan Pitcher. You're a hell of a football coach. And your offense was extraordinary last year. I mean, it was showtime, fun to watch. And thanks for giving us the time that you've given us. And I know everybody in Cincinnati that's a fan of the Cincinnati Bengals is certainly glad that you're the offensive coordinator.
Well, I appreciate you, Lap. Glad to spend a few minutes with you. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds like a plan. Have a great one.
All right, man. You too.
Dave Lapham here. While games are over for the season, there's no off-season for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham or First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics gave away great prizes during the season, which will continue with exclusive content in the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So please, do me a favor. Subscribe to In the Trenches, hit the like button, and visit the First Star Media Group YouTube channel for exclusive content and special giveaways.